Okay, what's up? I'm Keith. Listen, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're retired and you're working like a crummy job just to kind of keep busy, and you're not a flight attendant part-time, you should consider it. If you don't need the money, I mean, I guess you could, if you want to work as many hours as you want, you can. But if you're just working to kind of kill some time and you're financially good, you should definitely consider being a flight attendant. You know, there's a lot of us that came on with me who are in that situation. Some of them, some of us are retired, and we were looking for, honestly, the travel benefits. So that's what you're going to get. And, you could walk into, for me, I could walk into Logan International, Terminal E, an hour before a flight, look up at the board and say, oh, that flight's leaving to Lima, Peru. Let me see if there are any seats available. And if there are, which there typically are, I can just jump on that flight for short money, like $100, maybe $120. And I can spend a day in Mexico City, if I get to Terminal E in Boston at 5 a.m. and I catch a 7 a.m. flight out, if I get there at noon and there's a 10 p.m. flight coming back, a red eye or something like that, I'm good. You can spend a day. I haven't personally done that yet. Maybe one day. But I'm just saying, if you're working a crummy job, look, I was a school bus driver, right? And I was getting up every single day, 5 a.m., getting to Providence, driving a school bus, getting back at 9:30 in the morning, and then coming back at noon for a 1 p.m. bus trip to pick up elementary school kids and middle school kids. And then sometimes I wouldn't get home until 6 p.m., depending on traffic. That's kind of a crummy job. So, it's way better being a flight attendant part-time. First of all, I hardly work. If I told you what I worked, if I showed you my schedule, actually, I'm gonna put my schedule right here over by the sun for like the last month so you can actually see what I've actually worked. Right here, let's look at it. I'm gonna leave it up for a second. You can see I've hardly worked. Where you see a guy sitting in a chair, that just means they could have used me to work. They could have used me to work, but I didn't actually work, okay? If you see a guy out of his chair running, that means they called me in and maybe I worked that day. So I got called in, possibly I was airport ready, or maybe I had a flight, right? So on a typical month, maybe I'm flying 3-4 times a month, all right? But I just went to the Dominican Republic for under $300 round trip. I went to Porto, Portugal, Lisbon, Portugal, Mexico. Where else have I been? Been to Florida on multiple trips. It's the flight benefits. You don't get that on a school bus, okay? And you can still work another job if you want. I have a side hustle. A lot of us have side hustles. So definitely consider. I don't know who needs to hear this. I'm just saying, if you're not considering being a part-time flight attendant and you're retired, you probably should be. And if you're married, your spouse, your children, as long as they're under 24, get all of the same benefits that you get. They can fly anywhere in the world. They can show up at an airport in Terminal E at Logan, look at the board and say, where do I want to go today? As long as they have the money, obviously, right? It doesn't require an immense amount of planning. You can just go. So, especially if you have the time off and the flexibility and you have some money, you can just go. So definitely consider it. Peace. I'm Keith.